Holy Spirit spoke to me one day and asked me to quit my job. I came to Christ. I grew up in a Christian family, and my parents are pastors, and of course, I was a little rebellious growing up as a teenager, and I walked away from Christ for a lot of years and got into some things I probably shouldn't have gotten into. But almost 11 years ago, I was in a really dark place and jaded, I'm going to be honest, with the Christian church and Christianity and God in general because of things that had happened in my life. But God is so good, and He kept me all of that time. And when I was in that dark place, I remember picking up a Bible that had been sent to my son for graduation by one of my aunts back home. And I said, God of the Bible, if you exist, if it's you, can you please help me? And I opened up my Bible, and I saw the words, you cannot serve two masters, you cannot serve God and mammon. And I knew it was not money, right? But because I got involved in New Age thinking. And from that moment on, the Lord He spoke my name. He explained everything to me, where I went wrong, how He had been there the whole time. And ever since then, I have just been radically pursuing Him and His presence. And my life is so different.
Wow.
Because of Him, because of His favor, because of His goodness, because of His mercy, His compassion, His grace, His provision, His protection. He is literally my all in all.
Wow.
All in all. So I work in healthcare. I've worked in healthcare many, many years in Arizona. And I was working for a national healthcare company. And the Holy Spirit spoke to me one day and asked me to quit my job and to begin consulting. And I believed, because I had quit my job to begin consulting, that I was going to be wildly successful. And actually, it didn't happen that way. But I obeyed, and the Lord walked me through it. And He used that time to heal wounds in my soul. And I really believe that was integral to be able to get to the point that He took me to next, right? In order to build me up. So I went through a time of soul healing with Him. I actually went into bankruptcy. I lost everything, but He healed me of pride in my own story, and me thinking that I had picked myself up by my own bootstraps and done things for myself. And He showed me very clearly how even in my rebellion, even in walking away from Him, how He had me covered, and He placed me everywhere that I needed to be up to that point in order for Him to prosper me. And I remember waking up one day, it was in April of 2018, and He says, okay, we're done. And by that Friday, I had a job fall into my lap. And my childcare expenses were paid through the end of the summer. And I went back into healthcare, that field, and I prospered. I reconnected, made many connections. And I was having a really good time. I was traveling all over, having a really good time. And that following February of 2019, the Holy Spirit spoke to me again, and He said, okay, I want you to quit your job and begin to consult again. And I'm going to be honest, I was a little worried because the first time, I went into bankruptcy, and I was like, okay, we know how that turned out last time. And He's like, no, I want you to do it, and I want you to put in a notice today. So I put my notice in that day, and did my 2 weeks, and then I didn't know what to do with myself. I was used to being busy, and I just was like, okay, Lord, what do I do? And He said, rest, just rest. And
wow.
So
rest.
Just rest. And also because I had been working really hard, right? So He wanted me to take a time of rest. But within the week, I got a phone call from a CEO of a hospital in the area, and he said he'd gotten my name and number for me to go in and provide a service for him as a consultant. And I went in, I met with him. It was a really great interaction. That was my first solo consulting deal. And I remember when he asked me how much I was going to charge him, the Lord gave me an amount, and I thought, my gosh, that's a lot of money. Why would anybody pay me that kind of money?
Wow.
I wouldn't have charged that. To me, it just seemed like a huge amount of money.
Just too much money.
And so anyway, I thought, well, I'll charge a little bit less than that, and I'll figure out, I'll do something else on the side. But when I went to go meet with him, he said, how much will you charge me? That amount that the Holy Spirit gave me flew out of my mouth.
Wow. Tell the people what happened.
Just flew out of my mouth, and the CEO said, "We'll take it."
Wow.
Well, little did I know that amount that I thought was an exorbitant amount, okay, the person that was there before me was charging almost triple that amount.
Wow.
So to them, they're getting a great deal, and to me, that was double what I left behind when he asked me to quit the second time. So I ended up getting double the income, okay. And they took it, and I'm still working with them. I'm going on 3 years, going strong, and they're prospering, and we're growing. So that relationship has been really positive. And then the Lord spoke to me again that same summer. He spoke to me, and he said, "I want you to work really diligently all summer, like you're going to have to leave in September."
Wow.
And again, I'm like, oh God, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. You know, the money was great. I was enjoying what I was doing, the relationships. And I said, oh, okay. In essence, I'm going to work myself out of a job, but I trust you. So I worked really hard, really diligently all summer, like I was going to have to leave. And in September, the end of September of that year, I get a phone call from a doctor who owns the second largest practice in his industry in the nation. And he gives me a call, and he says, I got your name from a competitor, by the way, someone who should be a competitor. Both times, someone who should have been a competitor gave my information out. And he asked me if I would come and credential and contract for him, just in Arizona. So I went from being a single consultant to building a team. At that time, it was just 6 of us. And we built the team for him, and the Lord gave me favor that whole time. Listening to the Holy Spirit, he would wake me up in the middle of the night and say, look, they're going to ask for this today. So I want you to make sure that the team is ready and they have all of this information ready, okay, for when this meeting happens. And sure enough, I'd get a phone call. There was a meeting that needed to happen that day. They would request something, and I already had it in hand. Oh, yes, I already thought about it. Here you go. Okay, so what ended up starting out, which is business in the state of Arizona, has actually now grown for this provider, right? To now we've taken over multiple service levels in their company. We are now up to almost 20 people full-time within just for this one client, right?
Wow. So
and we took over
amazing.
We took over nationally, and now I am over at a high level over a large portion of their business. But I can tell you for a fact that once I did that, he brought in more business within the company, and I was available in my hands. So I let go of what was in my hand for him to put more in my hands, because now my hands were empty.